Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? Ya Allah. Ji guys, alaikum assalam. Hafiz Saab, you okay? Ji, so what's new guys since we met last time? Yusuf, are you okay? I see you've changed your picture. You look like some big time buzurg, big time wali. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Muhammad Ibrahim. Wa alaikum assalam ya akhi Ahmad, كيف الحال? Alhamdulillah, Hafsab. I'm good. I enjoyed it today. Today was a nice sunny day, guys. I don't know about where you guys were, but here in England, brilliant weather. Well, it wasn't that warm, but it was very nice and sunny. And the more sun we have, the more happy I am. The less sun we have, the less happy I am. So anyway, some of you guys got questions here. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brother Usman. Ihsan Saab. Alhamdulillah, Brother Ahmed, I am very good. Alhamdulillah. I miss Masjid Aqsa. White hair, bro. You just spotted one. You spotted one. I can show you about 4 or 5. Yes, sir. We got some white hair there, man. Some white hair there. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jihad. Is it haram to pull it out? No. It's not haram to pull out white hair. Yeah. The scholars generally mention that it's disliked if someone's elderly and they're trying to hide their age, then it's disliked. But if it's someone's young like me, Okay, are you into martial arts? Yeah, I'm into martial arts, alhamdulillah. I haven't been for a couple of months because of the winter, but I do Thai boxing and I do boxing. I'll do dua for everyone, guys. Do dua for Ihsan's beard. Yeah. What kind of dua do you want? There's different types of duas in it. Alhamdulillah. Make dua, Ahmad, that I come to Masjid Aqsa again. So I like to do Thai boxing and boxing. So Thai boxing is something I enjoy. Apart from like getting kneed in my stomach and getting like a uppercut. But I don't know, what do you do? Hez, is your name Hez? What's your name? Jamrock, Hez or Jamrock? I don't even know your name, man. I've been doing Muay Thai for I do Muay Thai. I do Muay Thai for about 2 years and 2.5 years. Ameen, ya Allah. Yeah, son, that's the way. Carry on, bro. Carry on. Tell him some more stuff. Tell him some more stuff. Yeah. Make some stuff up as well about my uppercuts. Okay, yeah. Okay. Alhamdulillah, it's good. All martial arts are very good. It teaches you discipline, teaches you, how to be confident in society as well. What is soor? Is that soor or soor? Sooar is the remainder water after you've drank it. So if I drink a glass of water, the water remaining is called sooar in Arabic. Is it important? Is it from the word saahir? No, saahir, the remainder. Saahir and nas. Is it important for common Muslims to know which Aqeedah group they fall into? What are the essential parts of Aqeedah and that every Muslim should know? Okay, so is it important to fall into? No, you don't have to fall into category. As long as you believe what the Quran is telling you. Yeah, as long as the person believes what the Quran is saying, and through the hadeeth of the Prophet ﷺ, that's it. That's all you have to believe, and you don't have to put yourself into any category or any group at all. Some people like to put next to their name, I'm an Ashari, or I'm a Maturidi, or I'm a Hanafi, or I'm a Salafi, or this. There's not really any need for that. As long as you believe in Allah, you believe in the messengers, you believe in the angels, you believe in Iman Mujmal is important. The basics, kind of the core, all the details and all of that. A lot of people don't even know. So as long as you believe there's one Allah, His attributes, and you believe in messengers, and you believe in the Day of Judgment, you believe in the decree, and the angels, and the books, that's it. That's enough. But if you want to go into detail, like the whole point of this Ash'ari, Maturidi, and the is because they were set up to defend against deviant beliefs that try to seep into Islamic society. Yeah, they're flying. Okay, son, calm down, bro. Yeah, calm down, bro. Yeah, I wish I did flying kicks. And sometimes after you watch like a Karate Kid or something, and then you kind of get up and you start doing those moves after the film for about a few hours, and then it all goes away. I'll do that. Okay, is it permissible to abort if raped? If so, why? What is the wisdom behind it? Okay, so this is a good question. So, is it permissible if a woman gets raped, can she abort? Then, technically, the scholars mention if it's before 4 months, there is permissibility given by some scholars. Yeah, so permissibility is given. However, if the child is over 4 months, the fetus over 4 months, then no. And this is going to harm the life of the mother. And I mean, it's because the woman, she's not ready to have a child. She's it's difficult, and having a child isn't something where everyone can have a child. It's something. So generally, the scholars say that a person should be ready to have a child as well. So if there's a woman, a mother, and she can't have a child, physically she's not fit enough or healthy enough or anything like that, then there is some kind of scope for abortion before 4 months. However, you have to speak to a scholar. You can't just give a brush fatwa about that. But I'm just giving you like an idea of how it works. So there is permissibility, but you have to speak to a scholar. Each individual speaks to a scholar, they get the answer. Sometimes, fatwa, it doesn't work like a brush statement. You can't have brush statements. Yeah, you have to look at case by case scenario. Okay. In the Quran, tell us signs, send water down from the sky. How is it with the towheed? Can we accept the Dajjal? Okay, the Quran mentions about sending down from the sky. The Quran mentions about not just sending down. Sending down is not just a miracle. The miracle is in when it comes down and then it mixes with the earth and then things grow, and then that's the sign. Yeah, that's the sign. So it's not just the sending down, it's the whole process of how that water mixes with the earth and it makes things grow. Dajjal, they say that he's going to have the ability to make the sky rain, but what we have to understand about Dajjal is, these kind of future predictions that prophets have made, a lot of them in the olden days seemed very supernatural, but in reality they won't be supernatural. Yeah, they'll just be like a normal thing to us. Like if you went 500 years back in time and you said in the future there's going to come a time where people are going to be able to stand on one part of the earth and the other part of the earth, and they can communicate with each other and see each other, it sounds supernatural, right? But when the time comes, it all makes sense now. It all kind of fits in together. So this is why a lot of the not all of them, but a lot of the predictions of what's going to happen in the future, it's just going to be the course of society, the course of science and nature. So Dajjal, as you mentioned, he might have, they're doing these experiments where they put some sort of chemical in the clouds or in the sky, and then it causes it to rain, comes down as rain. But that's not no miracle, because that's just using some basic science that they know, and it's not really giving much same benefit to the ground as Allah gives benefit through the rain. I'm following your Alimiyyah course. You mentioned that it is a beginner's course. What would be an intermediate course? My Alimiyyah course. You're gonna have to be a bit more specific. Are you talking about the video I done about how the overall way the Alimiyyah course works? Is that what you're referring to? Okay, will Dajjal simply be a highly skilled magician, or will he have supernatural powers? Yeah, so I answered that. So, we don't know exactly how the Dajjal is going to work. Personally, I think he's not going to be very supernatural. I think he's just going to be someone who is going to be using the tools of the day in science. Yeah, that's what I think, how he's going to work. But obviously his influence, his effect on people is going to be widespread. So like he's going to be traveling, in a donkey, and it's going to be from one city to another. Yeah. So you got to be a bit more specific about your question. Those who reject magic, you got to be a bit more specific. What's the question? Yeah, so you guys like my moustache, yeah? I've trimmed it quite a lot now, man. Some people were not happy with my moustache. Some people called me badmash, criminal. Yeah, so does that answer your question? Okay, magic. Basically, look, the Quran mentions about magic. Okay, however, the Quran talks about magic in the sense of illusion and the sense of splitting up between people. So this is like a very old debate among scholars, that everyone believes that magic exists, but what form does it take? As in, is there such a thing as magic that can change something from one form to another? Yeah, like change a rock into an animal, or change one animal into another animal. So there is no proof in the Quran and Sunnah that this has ever happened. Yeah, as in there's no proof besides the miracles of Allah, that Allah deformed certain people and made them into apes and pigs. That's something else, but we're talking about magic here. So is that ever happened? So there's no evidence for it. There's only one narration in Muwatta that's mentioned about Ka'b ibn Ahbar, who said, if it wasn't for these words that I recite, then the Jews would have made me into a donkey. So there's ikhtilaf about exactly what that means anyway. So besides that, the magic which is to do with affecting someone's mind, affecting their mind, affecting their health, is that possible or not? Majority of the scholars say yeah. Yeah, so the majority of the scholars say that that it does happen at Sunnah Jama'ah. There's the Mu'tazila who reject it, and the Mu'tazila rejecting, they've rejected lots of things anyway. So there are some scholars in Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah who say that the magic does not affect anyone. Magic did not affect the Prophet ﷺ. They don't accept the hadith of Bukhari where the Prophet ﷺ was affected by magic, and they say that they don't really use the reason that magic can't affect people. They use the reason that the Prophet ﷺ, because he was the messenger, he couldn't have anything that affected his message. So they assume that magic also would affect his message, so he can't be affected by magic. Okay. What about the hadith which says Dajjal can bring people back to life? So again, like I said, bringing someone back to life, again, the way the Arabs say things, as even sleep is considered to be a death. When you go to sleep, you say Allahumma bismi amutu wa ahya. Yeah. And then when you wake up in the morning, you say Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyani. So therefore, it's possible that if you look at the situation, that maybe he has some sort of a certain operations, they can take someone's heart out and replace it with a machine, and that person can be considered to be dead in some way. Maybe the technology will be so advanced that normally a doctor might assume that person to be dead, and he has the ability to bring him back to life. That's possible. Yeah. So I'm not saying that it might not be the case that he has some sort of supernatural power. I'm not saying that's not possible. What I'm saying is there is that possibility. It's plausible that he's just using the technology of his day. Okay, sorry, ajrumiyyah, my fault. I misread. Yeah, so ajrumiyyah, I'm not sure. I mean, the whole issue is my availability. So for me to take out some time in the week and then prepare the lesson and then deliver it, that takes a lot. That takes a lot out of me. So that's why, it's a bit difficult. But I'll see, inshallah. Hopefully, I'm thinking of maybe doing. Ajrumiyyah is a basic course, extremely basic, very beginners course. Yeah. So any give me a second. Let's move there. Okay. Yeah. So what else, guys? See, a lot of these kind of questions that generally people have about Dajjal and these kind of things, people would like, things to be really amazing and miraculous and beyond explanation. That's what people like. But if you kind of come out with some sort of plausible explanation, a lot of people are not interested in that. Yeah, so this is why, you gotta when you study like theology, when you study these kind of things, then your mind opens up to different possibility ideas as well. Okay, what would I consider intermediate? After this, maybe qatrun nada would be intermediate. Qatrun nada, or even there's mulhatul i'rab, which is another kind of, so it's in a poetry form, and I mentioned it in the last lesson of ajrumiyyah. At the end, I mentioned that as well. Would you consider Alfiya ibn Malik advanced? Yeah, Alfiya ibn Malik is advanced. That would be an advanced, that would be like level 3 maybe. When will Ash'ari and Atharis unite? I don't know, bro. I don't know. And they just, I don't know, when will the governments unite? When will, so these kind of things, I don't know. Allahu A'lam. I mean, we don't have to worry about when will they will unite. We just have to do our own thing. Carry on, worship Allah, and follow the laws of Allah Ta'ala through the Prophet Sallallahu, and that's it. End of story. You'll be fine. Certain things, there's always ikhtilaf. There's always has been ikhtilaf. The issue is trying to tolerate ikhtilaf. That's the problem. So we have to build an ability to tolerate certain things which are toleratable. There's certain things we can't tolerate, like certain opinions, which obviously, like, a person who believes that there's another prophet after the Prophet ﷺ, you can't tolerate that. But there's certain opinions that can be tolerated, and you work together. What did they say? Agree to disagree. Okay, are the Hanafis allowed to eat crayfish, crabs, etc.? I heard that's not permissible. Yeah, Hanafis generally, the texts mention about anything which is not fish, like it's the shape of a fish, you can't eat it. However, some of my teachers would say, like prawns and things like that, they would say that if it's a kind of seafood where your country or the place that you live in normally kind of eats that kind of stuff, then they say it's fine, you can eat it. Yeah, and they just say just eat what the locals eat, because there's a kind of ikhtilaf, and that ikhtilaf is like a blurry line. So I know a lot of scholars when I was in Pakistan, especially from Bangladesh, who would eat prawns, and they just say this is something that we find in our place. Okay, reasons for asking these questions about Dajjal is not because I don't want to believe that Dajjal is some kind of, no, he's not a demigod. No, he's just he won't be a demigod. Yeah, this is we don't believe in demigods and stuff like that. Yes, there are people who Allah gives certain abilities to, definitely. Even if you go into YouTube and you look into like amazing people with superpowers, and you'll come across people that have magnetic power in their body, people that in their body they can generate a bit of electricity, people that can tolerate electricity, high currents of electricity. So these kind of people exist. So if it's possible that these people do exist, then it's possible that there's people out there. I was reading about this one woman in Russia who has the ability to be able to look into people's bodies, X-ray. She can see. So there's people out there with strange abilities. There's not a hadith of 70 excuses. There's a statement of Umar radiallahu anhu, of 70 excuses, and scholars have taken that. Inshallah, you need to organize a course for the next level. Inshallah. Yeah, make dua, make dua. If one is able to take a year out from work, gap year, and wanted to dedicate a year to hifz, what would be the most efficient method of memorizing? Are there any Hafiz institute that you recommend? Okay, if a person, personally, first of all, I haven't done hifz. I'm not a Hafiz of Quran, and I wish I was. I didn't do hifz. But if you want to do hifz, what I would say, you need to go away from home, and you need to just dedicate yourself to memorizing the Quran. Yeah, organize how you're going to memorize it. You might not have a strong memory, so it might take you more than a year. You might have a very strong memory, it might take you less than a year. I've seen people who memorize the Quran in 4 months. Some people memorize the Quran, in years, 5 years, 6 years. So it all depends. I'm not sure, because I haven't done it, I can't really recommend for you a place that is the best place of learning. But what I would do is try to find a place where you can live there, accommodation, and to do hifz. There's different ways of hifz is done. Like, for example, you have the normal method, which is you basically memorize, you open the Quran, memorize, and read to a teacher. There's the method of the lawh method, which is used in West Africa, where you have like a kind of a piece of wood, and then you write on the ayats, and then you memorize that. That's that method. There's another method in China, which my friend memorized, which was basically you memorize, and then you don't go over it again, and then you memorize it again, and then you don't go over it again, like that. So because you don't go over it again, you forget a lot of stuff. So by repeating the whole process of memorization, you kind of sits in your head. So he did memorize it 5 times like that. It took a long time, 4 or 5 years. So there's various ways of memorizing, and you just look for the right one. The key to memorizing Quran is going over the thing that you've already learnt. That's the key. Yeah, if you can make that strong, so let's say you memorized 10 pages, you got to have a pattern of keep going over those 10 so that you can retain it. Otherwise, it's useless. You'll just forget everything. Isn't it makruh? Yes, I'm saying to you that according to the main kind of Hanafi position, a lot of scholars, is that they say it's disliked. But what I'm saying to you, because there's no clear cut between halal and haram here, and there's ikhtilaf, and the majority of scholars, Shafi'is and Hanbalis and Malikis, say that it's jaiz to eat most of the things in the sea, then it's a kind of area which there isn't that strict, there isn't as much strictness as other masail. I mean, feeders, it depends how you define feeders really, because all fish really feed off something. We like to eat sharks, they feed off other things. Do you have to wear hijab with adopted brothers who are raised by our own parents since they were babies? Yeah, this is a kind of very tricky question. Do we have to wear hijab if you're raised? If that child is, if it's breastfed, drank milk under the age of 2, then the scholars say no problem. Then it's considered to be a mahram, and you can travel, and you don't have to wear a scarf and all of that in front of the child, or in that person rather. But if it's not, then it's a problem. When they reach the age of puberty, then you have to cover the head. Okay. But the thing to remember is, look, sometimes you got to look at society as well. You got to look at certain situations, and you might be brought up with someone, but you just kind of just look at how it works. There are sheikhs from Saudi who catch the magicians. After they tell saahir to perform his rituals to call the jinns. Isn't this kufr to even watch the saahir do this, or is it okay to watch the satanic ritual to educate oneself on how they call the jinn? I don't know whether why communicating with a jinn would be kufr. I don't understand how that's kufr. Okay, can one be lenient to issues which are not related to ibadah? Depends what you mean. Can you be lenient towards issues that are not related to ibadah? Like, for example, you mean nikah, you mean talaq, like what kind of things? You got to be more specific. There's not like a general rule that you can be lenient when it's non-ibadah. There isn't like that kind of rule. But it depends. Certain masail you can be lenient in there, some masail you can't be lenient. Leniency and non-leniency is all to do with the strength of the evidence, basically. So the stronger the evidence of something being haram, then there's no kind of permission in there. But if the less strong, so because, for example, like when it comes to pork, for example, there's no leniency in pork. Pork is pork in the day. And, alcohol is alcohol. But when it comes to something like seafood, like I said to you, generally, I don't eat other kind of stuff. I've tasted crab. I'm not really too interested in eating that kind of stuff. I like prawns. I love prawns. But like I said to you, because there are scholars who have said these kind of things in their scope, if you want to be strict on these masail, you can be strict on them. Okay. Would you regard the topi as sunnah, or is it just a... Okay, would you regard sunnah? So the term sunnah is a bit kind of difficult to use the term sunnah for everything. But if you're asking, do you have to wear a topi, do you have to wear a hat when you go outside, I would say no, you don't have to wear a hat. I wear it because I've just been brought up, because I've studied in madrasa, and it's a kind of with the gear that I wear. Yeah. And also it's a kind of a sign that people can see that I'm Muslim as well in many places. So that's why I wear it out of respect as well. So sometimes people, they see me and I'm leading salat, and if I don't have a topi on my head, then it doesn't look nice as well. So just to keep everyone happy as well, wear a topi. But to say that it's necessary to wear a topi, or there's ikhtilaf amongst that. And the Prophet ﷺ would cover his head, and there isn't anything explicit to say that he told people to cover their heads. But the thing is that it was a social thing. Covering the head at that time was a social thing. Just like in many parts of the world, even today, that when they go outside, they wear some sort of headgear. In this country as well, 100 years ago or so, people wouldn't walk outside without something on their head. So that's how I see it, basically. Yeah, and to be so strict on, I know there are some people who are extremely strict and say you have to cover your head, and even if you go to the toilet, you have to cover your head. And personally, I don't take that view. Yeah. So if the Prophet ﷺ used to actually wear a imam on his head. Very rarely would he just wear a hat on his head. He'd wear the imam. And I know people who actually say it's bid'ah to consistently wear a topi on your head, to wear a hat on your head. I know people who have written books and they mentioned that. You heard Sheikh Yasir Qadhi saying that learning magic is kufr, but the Saudi sheikhs tell the magicians to perform the ritual when they catch the magician. I'm not sure. Magic and these kind of... If you're referring to magic as in the black magic which is evil arts, that kind of magic, then generally it's considered to be kufr to dabble with that kind of stuff. Imam Ghazalli mentions that the only person that can learn it is a person who wants to understand it to break it. Yeah, so to dissolve it, to break it, that's the only, it's a kind of way of learning how to do about drugs and learning about these things, not because you're going to do the drugs, but because you want to know how it works, so that people can be protected from it. Yeah, anything else, guys? Yeah, Allah. Oh, a tiring day today, man. Been playing badminton with the students. Oh, I'm exhausted. Where does the wearing of the ring come from? The wearing of the ring, the wearing of the ring is actually differed in the madhabs. According to Hanafis, generally the texts mention that it's makruh for a man to wear a ring, unless he's a qadi or someone who needs to use it for a stamp. It's actually considered makruh. And because the ring was actually a khatam, which basically means a seal that you would seal letters with, so it was actually considered to be makruh. But there are madhab, like the Shafi madhab, they consider it to be sunnah, mustahab even. Imam Bayhaqi has got a whole treatise that he's written on the khatam, where to wear it in, which hand to wear it in. And that's because it's, some of the Sahaba used to wear rings as well, and the Prophet ﷺ wearing the ring. Okay, I don't know the aqiq ring. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. Okay, so according to Imam Ghazalli, it's okay to learn sihr in order to crush it. Yeah, he says that. Imam Ghazali mentions that. Yeah, for. And again, this isn't like a general statement for everyone to go and learn it, because they're not going to go and crush these kind of things. This is for those people in the society who, who are going to be taking control of that, of their affairs. What would you recommend to brothers who talk about controversial issues such as Aqeedah? Aqeedah, first of all, sometimes when I see people on Facebook talking about Aqeedah, and I know they really don't know what they're talking about, they haven't studied it properly, to me it's just a waste of time discussing things that are beyond your head. So what I would say first of all is, look, if you really want to understand Aqeedah, first of all understand what the Quran says. Then after you understand what the Quran says, understand what the Sunnah says. Then after that, understand the different groups that came about in the beginning of Islam. And then you can read, once you've done all that, then when you read a text like Aqeedah Tahawiyah or Aqeedah Wasitiyah by Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, or any other text, you'll understand where they're coming from. You'll understand why they're coming out with their positions for on certain things. Otherwise, if there's just a normal person who sees Aqeedah, he doesn't see these different layers in the Aqeedah, where we get the dalils from and why they responded in this manner and why the text says this for. So it doesn't become clear to people. But when a person has studied all of these and looks at the text and understands, okay, you know what, this is actually something extremely important to believe in. This is something which is important, but it's not as the same level. And that's basically how Aqeedah works. So if you look in the beginning of Islam, there were only, the Quran just tells us, believe in Allah and don't do shirk with Him, and believe in the angels, and believe everything that's in the Quran is from Allah. That was Aqeedah in them days. And that's how they used to believe. They used to have like an extra book they used to study. Okay, does tahniq need to be done as soon as the baby is born, within a few hours, or it can be done later on as well? It's fine, it can be done later on. Tahniq. Yeah, it can be done. Tahniq is basically when you get like a date and you chew it and then you take out a bit of juice and you push it against the palate of the child's mouth. Yeah, that's tahniq for those who are unaware of that tahniq. So what else guys? You guys are going quiet. I don't like it when you guys are quiet, man. You guys gotta tell me things. Okay, thoughts regarding the start time of Isha Salah in UK in the summertime, permissible to pray 1 hour after Maghrib. Yeah, that's why I do. 1 hour after Maghrib in the summer, because those who don't know, because we live in the northern hemisphere, and in the middle of May to the mid-August there's no twilight. So because there's no twilight, there's a whole issue of the Isha time. What time does the Isha time start? Because twilight is like the end point of Maghrib. So once the twilight disappears, Maghrib, Isha starts. So in England, the twilight doesn't disappear, according to the opinion of Imam Hanifa. So basically what happens is, how do you pray the Isha? So there's multiple opinions about what you do, and I take the opinion of praying 1 hour. Again, the summer issue is actually an ikhtilaf. It's like a legitimately ikhtilafi issue. There is multiple opinions, and they all have their own research and dalils, evidences behind it. So I mean, whichever one you follow is fine. Yeah, for me, the 1 hour one is more convenient. It's more easier. I know there's people out there who actually pray straight after the Maghrib. They pray the Isha after that, and that's also a position, but which I don't really take that one. I prefer the 1 hour one. And if you go up north, all the way to like Edinburgh and these places, then it's like Maghrib, you easily can get up to maybe about 10:30, something like that, and then Isha is going to be extremely late. So this is why you look at the society of people as well. You look at difficulty for people staying up until that late. Do I know any scholars from Leicester? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know some scholars from Leicester. Leicester is like full of scholars, or full of graduates. People who graduated. Yeah, any other? You guys are tired of asking questions, yeah? See, a lot of the times what happens is, because people, they read a lot on the internet, their understanding of Islam and fiqh whether it's Hanafi fiqh or Hanbali or Maliki or Shafi'i, it kind of becomes shaped around what they've read, and it actually might not even be the case. So if you don't kind of study from someone, or if you don't have close contact with someone and you regularly ask them your questions, you can have this misunderstanding of things in Sharia, and you think certain things are strict whereas they're not that strict, and you might think certain things are lenient whereas they might not be that lenient. Okay, how would you sincerely advise a brother who boasts about their sins? Yeah, I mean, boasting about sins, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned about, it's a big problem. He said that Allah forgives kullu ummati mu'afa illa al-mujahirun, that all the ummah Allah will forgive except for those people who boast about their sins. Because Allah spends all night, Allah covers their sins, and then in the morning they go to their friends and start boasting about, I done this and I done this. So, I mean, what I would say is, when you're dealing with people, don't be too harsh with them in everything. So, sometimes people don't know better. They've been brought up like that. They're just in that kind of phase. Maybe they're youngsters in their teens or in their 20s, and they're just in that kind of, intoxicated early days of youth. And sometimes maybe that could be it. So what I would say is, these kind of people, be their friend, yeah, and just tell them some good things now and again, not all the time, yeah. And the reason for that is because you want them to become closer towards Allah, and you don't want to push them away. So they might be doing bad stuff, but you don't want to focus on the bad stuff. You want to focus on what good stuff they can do, because once they start doing good stuff, then they'll start leaving the bad things themselves. And if we all become judges, and we start judging everyone and start issuing the fatwas, and then we're going to be pushing people away. So we're going to have a balance of how we deal with these kind of things. Have you thought about Madinah Azhar? Yeah, I have thought about it, but it's just difficult for me, my situation. But yeah, I would have loved to have studied in these kind of places, studied by some of the experts. Okay, northern parts of the world fast in Ramadan will be 21 hours. Is there any ri'ayah for them to follow little southern area where the fast is 17 hours? Yeah, this is a good question. There is scope for people whose fast is too long. There is scope for them to follow a shorter day. Yeah, the scholars have mentioned this. So I would say that, because I haven't experienced this, but if they find it difficult generally overall to fast, then they can take that opinion. Yeah, I wouldn't see any problem with that. So because 21, 22 hours continuous fasting for people, it is hard in some places, but for some people it's not hard. So I would say that if people do find that there is scope to follow that opinion. Okay, is istimna bil yad really differed between the scholars? Okay, so basically you mean masturbation. The issue with masturbation is that generally the scholars have mentioned that it's something which is not permissible, and the text that they use is the Quran, where Allah says, except with your spouses and those of the slaves. So this is the general text they use, and there's a hadith, but majority of the hadith are weak hadith. So they consider this act to be something which is impermissible. So that's the majority position. The Malikis generally, and the Shafi'is, and they say, for example, like the Hanafis say that if a person does it out of masturbation, if a person does it out of just increasing their pleasure, sexual desire, that's totally wrong. If a person does it because they're filled with desire and they can't concentrate and focus anymore, then to taskeen shahwa, to remove the desire, yeah, so that kind of you got the pressure cooker and the pressure's built up, and then you take the top off and yeah, for taskeen shahwa, then Imam Muhammad says that I hope there's no sin for that. So that's basically that. There are later scholars who have mentioned, and there are some scholars in the past who have mentioned, outside the madhabs as well, who have mentioned the permissibility of it, and Imam Shawkani has a risala on this. But what I would say is this, that sometimes what tends to happen is that just because someone has mentioned a permissibility for it does not mean at all that that thing becomes totally permissible now and it's okay. Because a lot of the time what tends to happen is people who masturbate regularly, they watch pornography. yeah, and or they're involved in illicit relationships. And these kind of things should be controlled. When a person controls these kind of things, then they don't have the urge for that. So, it's very important to remember these kind of things and the effects of masturbation on a person's mentality as well, the mindset. A person becomes secluded all the time, and a person, then gets into this mindset that he has to fulfill his urge. And then it can have really bad effects later on when they get married. When a person gets married, and then they can't get that same desire, and they have premature ejaculation and these kind of things. And this is the kind of thing that's ignored in this masala. Okay, heard of a quote: "Be strict to yourself, but lenient with others." Yeah, alhamdulillah. Okay, may Allah make it easy for you to study in this place. Ameen, jazakallah khair. How to make tayammum? So tayammum is according to the Hanafis, basically you strike your hands on a earth-based substance like a rock or a marble stone or soil or sand, and then you wipe it on your face, your entire face, and then after that you wipe your arms. Yeah, you wipe your arms. Yeah, all of your arm, and that's it. Yeah, so 2 strikes, 1 for your face, and strike number 2 for your arms, all as much as possible. Okay, what if this friend talks with you about haram things? How do you have to react? Yeah, if they talk about haram things, if you've got a good friend, you can change the conversation. You can make a joke out of it. You can talk about other things. Sometimes, it's just, you look at I would say look at your situation. For example, personally me, if, for example, I was in a situation where someone's backbiting someone, right, which is obviously, even listening to backbiting is not allowed. What I would say is, brothers, look, can we talk about something else? I don't feel comfortable talking about this. So, there's ways around things. So look at the best way that you see best, and then, talk about that. Okay, and what is meant by stay in your houses? Some people say this means women cannot emerge from their homes except in dire circumstances. No. This verse was primarily for the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, and their form of hijab was a very strict form of hijab in their situation. And it doesn't mean that stay in your house and don't leave, because we know the wives of the Prophet ﷺ did leave their houses and used to go out. Yeah, they went for Hajj and they went for other things as well. So no, it's not. It's just taken literally by some people. Okay, after the famous meeting between Imam Hanifa and Imam Malik, was there a noticeable change in the methodology of Imam Abu Hanifa? The meeting where both Imams came out of the private room, which with sweat on their foreheads. Possibly. I don't know exactly when this incident took place. So, and the other thing is, I don't know exactly which masail before that they had and which masail after that they had where they differed. So that's very hard to ascertain. But yeah, definitely they did borrow from each other. They did. There's books that are written on hadeeth that Imam Malik took from Imam Hanifa, hadeeth that Imam Abu Hanifa took from Imam Malik. And the students, Imam Abu Hanifa students, were, when they had conversations, they were influenced by other ideas as well. And that's why they differ in many things that Imam Abu Hanifa says. Okay, if someone converts to Islam, will Allah reward him for the good actions he did, such as charity work and education? Education before he was a Muslim, yes. If he does good things, according to majority of the scholars, that Allah will give them reward, and this is the position in the Imam al-Maturidi as well says this. So if they did good stuff, Allah will reward people for good things. And even sins like Umar radiallahu anhu even says that the sins that I hope that the sins that I committed in the past, Allah will change them into good deeds. Yubaddilullah sayyi'at hasanat. Can you share some advice on how to keep your intentions purely for the sake of Allah, and how? Okay, first of all, sins for this intentions for the sake of Allah. This is a kind of thing which some people they misunderstand. Doing something for the sake of Allah does not mean that you can't do it for other things as well. Like, for example, let's say you're studying knowledge. What does it mean to study for the sake of Allah? So studying for the sake of Allah, look at that white hair there, yeah, guys. So studying for the sake of Allah does not mean that you can't intend to become a teacher. And some say, Inna lillah, I thought you're supposed to studying for the sake of Allah. So why are you intending to become a teacher at this institute or this university or madrasa? Yeah, or maybe someone's helping out in a charity, and their intention is that they'll help out in this charity and then later on they can become someone that can set up their own charity, to learn the ropes. So again, this is for the sake of Allah. So sake of Allah is anything where the outcome will bring you closer to Allah. That's sake of Allah. If you remember that, that's what sake of Allah is. So even for example, like the Sahaba, they used to go for jihad battle. So they used to do for the sake of Allah, isn't it? But they used to be told that if you find an enemy and you kill them, you get whatever they've got on them is yours, and you get booty of war as well. So at the same time, it can be for the sake of Allah, and you can also get materialistic things from it as well. Okay. Salam Alhamdulillah. Huzaifa, are you okay? Hope you're well. Quick question in regards to usul fiqh, usul hadith. Many institutes study different books and reject other books of usul. For example, Deobandi Madrasa, let me see here. For example, they were studying usul shashi and place in Saudi and Mauritania, study kitabs of Shaykh Uthaymeen and others. What's the reason they don't other books on usul, etc.? I haven't really dwelled much. Okay, good question this is. So basically, I'm going to do a video on usul fiqh, especially in the Hanafi school. One thing is, look, usul fiqh is to do with the particular fiqh that you follow, the particular madhab. So the Hanafi usul fiqh is going to be tailored for the Hanafi texts, and the Shafi usul fiqh is going to be tailored for the Shafi texts, etc. Yeah, that's how it works. So for example, if I'm going to be studying the Hanafi fiqh and I'm going to be studying Maliki usul, that wouldn't make sense. So a person masters the usul in their madhab, and then after that they can move on to another madhab. That's fine. I mean, I've studied several books on the usul, and some of them are contemporary usul as well, which compare the Shafi madhab usul and because there was two major usuls in history, and inshallah I don't have time to mention it now, but there was the Shafi method of usul fiqh and there was the Hanafi method of usul fiqh. Eventually they both merged together. So they're basically the majority of masail in usul fiqh are the same. Okay, if one wants to wear undies whilst in ihram, is it okay as the person does not feel comfortable with no underwear? I mean, if a person does wear any clothes which is stitched together, there is a rule for it. They'll have to give them. Yeah, have to give them. So if you want to wear it and then you'll have to sacrifice an animal, that would be up to the person. But generally, I mean, they shouldn't be wearing anything that's stitched. Okay, Hanafi position on one shaving mustache, masa over socks, trousers below ankles. So shaving mustache, yes, as you can see, I've got the mustache, so I'm Hanafi. There's difference of opinion. There's some Hanafis who say it's more preferred to cut the mustache as short as possible, or to shave it. And there's other Hanafis who say trimming above the lip, that suffices. So there's the difference of opinion. Imam Tahawi's position, and there's other later scholars who have positions on this. So I had teachers who had mustaches, I had teachers who had clean shave, no mustache. Okay, masa over socks. The issue with the masa over socks, generally in the Hanafi texts, it's mentioned that they have to fulfill at least two criteria. One is they have to be able to hold themselves on the foot. Like for example, socks that I'm wearing now at the moment, or you're wearing, they can hold themselves on the foot. And number two, the second criteria is that you have to be able to walk a certain distance in them. So they haven't really specified what distance that is. Later Hanafis decided that. So as long as it fulfills these two criteria, you can wipe over them. So I mean, that obviously brings the question that what about today's socks that you buy from Next or you buy from somewhere, some good quality socks, can you wipe over them or not? So it's a bit difficult to say, because like I haven't really tried walking with them a long distance. But I know there are scholars who do give permissibility if they're thick enough, right? If they're like good quality socks that you buy from Primark or Next or any of these outlets, and they're good quality socks, and you think that you can walk in them a long distance, then there may be scope for that. I know that people do that, but generally I try to avoid the ikhtilaf and just stick to, for example, leather socks or mountain socks. You can get these mountain socks, breathable wudu socks as we call them. Trousers below ankles. Yeah, trousers below ankles according to the Hanafis generally is considered to be makruh tanzihi, as in best not to do. And that's because of the clothing they used to wear at that time. And in today's times, I wouldn't see a problem with suits or wearing a suit or wearing trousers, jeans or whatever below the ankles, as long as it's not done with arrogance. Yeah, so arrogance is the issue. In the olden days, they used to wear the trousers and they used to deliberately let it drag on the ground, or below the ankles, just to be arrogant and brag to other people. That's not allowed. Okay. If we find money lying about on the floor which no one is claiming, should we pick it up and give it to charity or just leave it? Yeah, if a person, what I would say when it comes to money, you find money on the floor, if it's a large amount of money, pick it up, take it to a local shop, say, look, I found this, and then let them deal with it. Or give it to authorities. Yeah, just contact maybe some local authorities and tell them, look, you found this large amount of money. If it's a small amount of money and you know no one's really going to be coming back and looking for that, then just give it to charity. That's what I would say in today's society, based on today's. If you find it in a bus, for example, give it to the bus driver. Or if you know the area, just make an announcement, put like a leaflet up or something. There is a heavy emphasis on qiyas in the Hanafi madhab. Can you explain what qiyas is? Okay, this is going to have to be the last masla. Then I'm going to have to go, guys. Alright, so qiyas. Basically, there's two meanings of qiyas in Hanafi madhab. One meaning of qiyas is theory. Yeah, the theory of things. And there's one meaning of qiyas where the Quran and Sunnah have not mentioned something about a particular thing. So what you do is you try to find the closest thing that's mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah, and you take the ruling from that and you apply it to this particular thing. Yeah, so that's basically what qiyas is. I think that's what you're talking about, right? So everyone does that. The four madhabs, they all do that type of qiyas, and there's nothing wrong with it, as long as it fulfills the criteria and it doesn't go any ayah or hadith which is explicit. So if it ever goes against, if there's like a text and there's a hadith or an ayah or a ijma' of sahaba that goes against this, you leave the qiyas and you take their statement. Masa over shoes. Yeah, I mean, if shoes are bendable, you can bend them and you can walk in them and they cover above the ankle, then yes, why not? Because they do the same thing as the leather sock. Alhamdulillah, guys. I hope you guys benefit from this session. I mean, maybe next time you can have some questions collected, and you can post them to me. And sometimes I don't know the answer to certain things. So if I don't know the answer, I'll say to you I don't know the answer, and then I'll have to go and research it. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, if I can help you guys, if I can benefit you guys according to whatever I've researched, whatever I've learnt. Okay, what's the dua when you have flu? I don't think there's a specific dua if you have flu, but there is like duas like the Prophet ﷺ, he would tell someone to recite it unto him, read Surah Fatiha. Yeah, or for example, have you got a flu, brother? May Allah give you shifa. Bismillah arqiq min kulli da'in yashfiq wa min kulli ayni hasidin. Bismillah arqiq wallahu yashfiq min kulli da'in yudhiq wa min kulli ayni hasidin Allah yashfiq. Or Bismillah arqiq. That's a dua that's mentioned in the books of hadith. Okay, please do remember us in your du'as. Inshallah, may Allah give all of you guys barakah in your time, in your efforts, and give you understanding of the deen, and give me understanding of the deen as well. Jazakumullah khair, guys. When's your next chat live session? I try to do it every other Friday. What's your advice when, bro, you first of all get over your flu and then look for a spouse. Okay, when it comes to finding a spouse, inshallah, maybe next time I'll mention. I have to go now. Okay, Jazakallah khair. Okay, oh yeah, I forgot, sister, your question. About the question about the wig. If you contact me tomorrow, inshallah, sometime, I'll explain to you. I totally slipped my mind. I did mention that I was gonna tell you it, but sorry, I do apologize. Alright, guys, so I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and enjoy yourselves. And if you're coming to the course, inshallah, you'll see me there as well. I'll be here as well. Yeah, inshallah, I'll be at the event, inshallah. Or part of the day I'll be there, inshallah. So take care, guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Oh yeah, watch my vlogs, yeah? I hope you guys are watching my vlogs. And do you like my Arabic conversations? Yeah, the two characters. I'm thinking of some other characters to bring into my conversations as well. So you'll see them in the future, inshallah. Some more characters coming in. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.